Intense summer heat leaves some Texas inmates feeling like they're being cooked in state prisons.
I remember asking my bunkie, I was like, do you think that our brains are frying?
We hear concerns from inmates and families and why plans to provide heat relief went cold at the Capitol. Lawmakers returned to the Capitol to take another shot at property tax relief. They're pushing the same plans that failed before, but now there's new hope for a deal to help homeowners. The race for president heats up with a high-profile rally in Texas.
As president, we are going to fully deputize all state and local governments to be able to enforce immigration law.
And he's not the only one heading to the Lone Star State. Why candidates are looking to the border to boost their campaigns.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Will Dupree. Josh Hinkle is off this week. As Texas faces intense summer heat, people locked up in our state prisons are describing excruciating and dangerous conditions. The majority of units do not have air conditioning in the cells. That's causing health concerns for inmates and prison workers. Ryan Chandler brings us some of their stories and the failed fight for change.
It is suffocating. It's terrifying just to feel like you're cooking. And I remember asking my bunkie, I was like, do you think that our brains are frying?
At the Lucille Plains State Jail near Houston, the maximum sentence is 2 years. But 2 summers was enough to make inmates like Maggie Luna feel like they were facing life.
All of these women that were suffering with me had not a lot of time and feared that they were getting death sentences. They would come in with a temperature gun, and it would be like 120, and we would hear them call that out and be like, and they just turn around and walk away and leave us all cooking in here.
Those still inside, under this June's scorching Texas sun, are sending desperate letters.
These are things that are really, really hard to read as a mother.
Yvonne Stone's son Kevin wrote her this week, saying he has vomited and passed out.
These big, huge concrete and metal buildings turn into ovens. I mean, he wrote one night, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, because he puts the date and time on his letters a lot of times. And he's like, it's 121 degrees in here.
TDCJ tells us protecting employees and inmates is core to their mission, saying they take numerous precautions to lessen the effects of hot temperatures, and these efforts work. Among those efforts, providing respite areas with AC, as well as water, ice, and fans, and prioritizing inmates for cooled cells with a heat sensitivity score. So far this year, they tell us 4 inmates have required medical attention beyond first aid for heat-related injuries. 9 employees have also suffered heat-related illnesses.
Instead of having somebody focus on keeping people cooled down when they're about to stroke out, we should be providing AC, so that's not even a problem that we have to worry about.
This legislative session, State Representative Carl Sherman passed a bill to do just that out of the House Corrections Committee.
If we're paying our tax dollars to house individuals who have been incarcerated under the custody of the state, and they're in conditions that are worse than our animal shelters, I think we're accountable for that.
It never got a debate in the full House.
We have the resources, and we still have surplus, but there is not a will to provide AC in the housing unit. So it's intentional.
The summer sun here to stay, with no relief on the horizon.
We need to start by focusing on what we're incarcerating. Is incarceration truly to build better humans, to become better neighbors, or is it torture?
Ryan Chandler joins us now. Ryan, thanks for being here. This issue, since the story has been shared, has only gotten worse. We've learned of a few more deaths just in the last week. What have inmates shared about the conditions they're experiencing?
Well, Will, we now know of at least 5 deaths in TDCJ prisons in the month of June that were caused by heart attack or from cardiac arrest. We heard a heartbreaking story from a family of an inmate in Huntsville. He was 35 years old. He died of cardiac arrest while mowing a lawn outside his Huntsville unit. We heard another story of a 33-year-old man found dead in his prison in Houston. And just as recently as Friday morning, we learned of a 37-year-old woman who was found unresponsive, dead in the Lane Murray unit in Gatesville. So we can't say for sure that all of these were caused by heat-related heat stroke or heart issues. But what we do know is that all of these prisons are unair conditioned. Young men and women like this do not typically die of cardiac arrest unless they have significant triggers.
All this really raises what a solution for it is. Is the state bringing forward any kind of effort to be able to address this?
TDCJ has tried to alleviate the issue as best they can within their own budget. They have been putting in more cooled beds. In fact, since 2018, they've installed about 3,600 beds that do have air conditioning. They have another ongoing project to add about 6,000 more, but still, that is just a fraction of the total inmate population. About 70% of all of TDCJ's prisons do not have full air conditioning. 14 of them have none at all. So, to your question about what can the state do, this is a straightforward problem, right? It is a question of priorities and a question of money. And the Texas House this past legislative session did actually appropriate more than $500 million to install and mandate air conditioning in all Texas prisons. That failed to get a vote in the Senate. Senators there have not shown any willingness to do this. They say we don't have the money. That was false in this session with a historic $33 billion surplus. But more to the finer point, they say that they just don't want to do this. So we still lack the political will to air condition our prisons.
And unfortunately, it's only going to get hotter this summer. Ryan, thank you so much.
Unfortunately, yes. Thank you.
Governor Abbott calls lawmakers back to the Capitol, pushing them to make a deal to lower your property taxes. The promising and not so promising signs to close the divide on tax relief. Tracking opioid overdoses in Texas, how a new state law could improve information and save lives. Plus, campaigning in the Lone Star State, the reason why Texas is already looming large in the race for the White House.